Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. With me on the show this week is April Lampert and Amy Baldwin, hosts of Shameless Sex, one of the biggest sex podcasts out there. They inspired me to start Sex Party. They are one of the many people that I have looked up to in this field, and they are here. We are going to talk about their amazing podcast that they have been doing for 8 years. We're going to talk about how to attend your first sex party in real life and give a ton of details on what you can do, what you don't have to do, all of the things. It's way easier than you think. We're going to talk about what we think and what they think is wrong with sex right now in 2025. We're also going to talk about their incredible book. And at the end of the episode, they give me some advice on moving forward with the sex podcast. You guys are going to love this. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Amy and April from Shameless Sex.
This week's conversation.
Amy Baldwin, April Lampert, otherwise known as Shameless Sex. Welcome to Sex Party. How are you guys doing?
We are fabulous.
What up? We're good.
Here. Yeah. You nailed that name.
Yeah, you guys are always good. I fucked up April's name in the intro, which has only happened to me twice. So there's that, but we re-recorded it. So now it's perfect.
No one knows.
Yeah,
I hold no grudges, Dustin. Zero grudges.
Well, we could call you Dustin Rybka? Maybe
Rebecca?
Yeah.
Dustin Rebecca. It's Rybka.
Yeah, it's been Ryback, Rebecca, Rybka. One time in college, the guy said Dustin, Rebecca, and I said, you got it wrong. And Rebecca, I'm leaving, and I still want credit. And I walked out, and everybody was like applauding or whatever because, like, fuck you. Like, it's 5 letters. How do you get Rebecca out of that? Like, I know you're nervous, but come on, you know?
Yeah.
That's rad.
Funny.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you guys. I feel like for me, this is the fulfillment of a bit of, I've been fan for a long time in terms of, when you start a podcast, I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's a year or two of obsessive, compulsive checking other podcasts that you want to be like. And for me, every time, we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, but for me, every time I went to Apple Podcasts, it was you guys naked, in your thumbnail, Shameless Sex. So, I just want to say like how much it, and also too, we're here because of our Lord and Savior, Susan Bratton, which,
April says that she's her
she hooked it up.
She's my the spirit guide for the sex world, like especially sexual wellness world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she really is. She really is. Softball question just to start off, because we're not going to start off, with how did you start the podcast? I'm not going to give you guys the interview that everyone else has given you guys. Okay. So I want to start off, easy question, right? What the hell is wrong with sex in 2025, and can we solve it?
It was so new. Wait,
it's only 2 months in.
Of
Wait,
data.
no, a month and a half.
Yeah. I mean, I recorded 10 episodes, and it's already wilding out. So
yeah,
I've been having great sex.
Well, yes, on the person, like if you're talking about sexual politics,
but politics, yeah.
So, so there's one answer right there. When you look at the outside world, and you're like, this is a fuckery.
Doesn't make your pussy wet.
No, but there's ways to make your pussy wet, like April's doing behind closed doors. So sometimes you have to be selfish. I feel that way. People are like, have you been paying attention to politics? And we're not going to talk about politics on here.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if I do that all the time, I'm going to my pussy is going to go dry. And that's not the only reason why. I'll just be an unhappy, miserable person. And masturbation is a good way to shift that. But
are there any hot politicians?
Are there any?
Yeah, in your opinion. I was just trying to think about this the other day.
I used to think Gavin Newsom was hot, and I don't anymore.
He ruined it for himself. I used to think that the Canadian Prime Minister was hot, but then he quit.
Yeah.
He's not. He
did
doesn't
quit,
belong.
Maybe that one lady in New Zealand.
I don't know her. Anyway, so that's some food for thought.
Yeah. I do think we are moving in a complicated direction, but I think there is some positive stuff. April, I wasn't able to be on the show, but April recorded an episode for the AI episode.
Oh yes, with Aria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is about how how our modern day technology can actually, yes, we know that it can hurt relationships and be really complicated, especially social media and things. But there's AI programs now that can really help with like couples relationship stuff.
Totally, like communication, their intimacy. They did 100,000. They did a research study with 100,000 couples. It's like the largest in modern day, I think, relationship studies to date, 2025, and they found that this AI generated platform, Aria, can it helps 75% of the people in the study feel closer.
Yeah.
And these are couples that are in like LTRs, like long-term relationships. So how cool is that? I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I just listened to, at the time of this recording, that's your most recent episode. So I just listened to that before this while I was in the shower. And I was like, wait, for couples? Because AI, we think of normally, everyone I've had on the show is like, usually a porn star who has cloned themselves in the AI field, which some have turned out wonderful and some just are like some badly Sims-esque kind of weird kind of thing.
That's fun though.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what you do, if you have the guts to clone yourself into an AI, you're a fucking rock star in my book. So yeah, but I mean, so after recording that episode, April, like, do you have like true hope that AI is going to really like save coupled sex for couples? Coupled sex for couples, yes.
Yeah, coupled sex for people all throughout their relationship journey, because sometimes you're with the same person and then it shifts. It sounds to me, and they actually gave me an Amy an access code, and I haven't had time to mess around with it yet because this was just last week that we recorded, and we've both been busy. And that being said, the way that he talked about it, where it's using their whatever they had developed on the back end, and forgive my tech,
it's okay.
my tech
lingo.
lack of tech lingo. I'm learning, but they use like these, of course, the buzzword algorithm that everybody uses.
Algorithm.
But it does search for these commonalities, and the part that was really cool to me was that it helps with like identifying if people want to explore BDSM, and then they deliver a package with all of the items that will help you in package, playtime. Right? Yeah, physical package. And then they give you all these cues, like a map of ways to communicate. And so Amy and I, in our book, we had talked about, and this is like a well-known suggestion of a lot of sex and relationship experts and therapists, is to have your sexual menu, you and your partner, have your yes, no, and maybes list. They sort of take the labor out of that, and you just answer their in-depth questionnaire, and then they create the menu for you. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool, because some people might not even know what they like. They might be like, oh, I saw that once in porn, or I saw that or heard about that once on Shameless Sex or Sex Party. And how do I go about explaining that? So I think those pieces are really cool. I'm still wrapping my head around it. So I'll stay tuned for that.
Sure.
But I'm excited about it.
Well, I think, I just, and again, of this recording, and I hate saying that because it's like the past version of me talking to the future version of everyone else. But, when this drops, I will have just dropped the episode, like 160 episodes, right? Like regular episodes. Then I have like, I don't know, 9 or 10 specials that are out there. So 170 episodes with hundreds of guests. And for me, it's like, we keep coming up against the same topics and not in the same way. So when I talk to a therapist, or I talk to a porn star, or I talk to a sex or relationship coach or a dating coach, it's all the same thing. It's like, you have to communicate, and you have to really express what you want, even if you feel like it's going to be a battle, right? And maybe that's not a great word, but it's going to be
it's legit.
A rough
chat.
Is a battle. Yeah. But the thing is people still aren't, right? Like, I get all these messages, and it's like, hey, I really want my husband to, and I'm pulling from, the fucking cloud here, but I really want my husband to like go down on me and like talk dirty. And then he's like, oh, I really want to have a threesome, because like, every guy wants to do that. And or she's like, I really want to have a threesome with another guy, and like all these things. And my go-to is like, well, did you listen to the 170 episode? Like, you have to tell, like, so what do you think it is that's preventing people, like, they get to that, they have to have two Tito's and soda before they can even bring it up? Like, I kind of want to pretend like you're your best friend while we're having sex. It's just a role play, please. Like, how do you get to those things without because I feel like people get almost there and they just drop the ball and they go right back into this kind of like sour comfortability, I would call it.
Well, I think if we consider this like take it the context outside of sex, right? Someone wants to do some like self-help improvement growth thing. How common is it? And this is like kind of a question, but I think we all know the answer, for people to kind of start that path and then to fall off.
Oh yeah.
It's like whether it's health, it's diet, it's exercise, and sex. I think it's this similar path, right? It's like, we listen to these things, we want to try these things. We started to try these things, especially in long-term relationships. We started to try them, and then we're like, one weekend, we're like, now we got, with the jobs or the kids, or it feels like work. So this is why in our book, number one, part of the reason why we wrote Shameless Sex, the book, was similar to what you're saying. So many people asking the same questions that are in our episodes over and over and over again. And now we have Shameless Sex, the book, a resource where it's not just a book with like, here's just all the info. It's like a guide or a map or like a compass for you to navigate in almost like a very personal experience of your own sexuality. And so we did that for that reason, knowing that people will like kind of like get into the journey a little bit and then they fall
we did
off.
it because we're lazy. We're like, we're not answering sex questions anymore. Now you have to buy the book.
That's a quarter true what she's saying.
I'm totally kidding, and sarcasm is my go-to. But we Amy and I were like, oh my God, we get the same questions over and over again. And instead of, because we have 450 plus episodes, I think much more, but I lost track. So cycling through and remembering when we hit on the pieces that would be an answer to people's sex questions started to get a little bit redundant. And we're like, hey, folks, here's a book, here's a resource for you, and you can become your own sex and relationship coach in a sense. Also, there's supporting people that you can rely on. And we reference our episodes that do touch on some of the answers to the sex questions in the book too. But we're not really lazy at all.
No.
Yeah.
So just FYI.
Yeah, but it wasn't the lazy part. It was just like we keep but also we're seeing these themes, and the common themes often are related to what you're talking about. Like I liked how actually what you just talked about because I just honor the like when another dick is in the room, everyone freaks out. We're going to do a recording after this with someone else talking about threesomes, and it's more about like the two girls, one guy threesome. But we've talked about this, like, but everyone's like, this is totally cool, but another dick walks in the room and now it's edgy, or all of a sudden. I know that was a complete tangent, but like you said that, and I was like,
why is that? There's no studies about this yet.
Well, we can do a study right now. I just think, what do you think, Amy?
I mean, I just think dudes are more intimidated by other dudes than women but also there's this normalization that women are naturally bisexual or bicurious. I mean, let's also honor the fact that just the truth that dicks and balls are kind of awkward. They like take up a lot of space, but I think people just are insecure.
Did you ever watch a show, Californication?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been rewatching it because I love it. David Duchovny, and then there's I can't remember his name at the moment. Ethan. He was in Sex and the City as Charlotte's husband, the Jewish lawyer.
The bald guy.
Yeah, the bald guy. Yeah. And I think something Handel. Anyway, point is, I just watched the episode 2 days ago where the bald guy in the show, Charlie, his name's Charlie. He wants to have a threesome with Hank Moody, and
two dicks
because the chick that he wanted to fuck would only hook up with him if Hank Moody was involved, because Hank's fucking badass. And while he's going down on her, Charlie, Hank Moody's like watching, just like fucking get this over with. And then he's like, oh wait, because he had fucked the chick before. He's like, oh wait, I remember why I stopped calling her. She's gonna blow, Charlie. She's gonna blow. And then she just squirts all over him. And then his like ex-wife walks in at the same time. And I remember
he was an anti-squirter.
No, but
it like sounds like it.
Sounds like an anti-squirter.
He was like, no,
he stopped calling her because she squirted.
I guess it was a lot of cleanup.
Fuck you, Hank Moody.
But his face while Charlie was fucking her was so funny, and I thought about that exact topic that we're talking about then. And so bringing it back around, it's kind of like you have to be really comfortable with the dude to be like supportive if you are going to be in a threesome position with him, because there are, it is vulnerable. Like, you're making faces, you're making noises. You might be positioned in a certain way that I don't want to, maybe he doesn't want
swords cross.
Yeah. Or maybe he doesn't want to see his friends butthole or something.
Well, maybe you get a
bent
stranger,
over
get a rando dick then.
So now this is different. So this is a different thing. Yes.
Yeah. Rando. See, I think random would be much more. And also, too, just in the threesome sense, not to get too off. Oh, who cares where we go? Who gives
I already
a fuck?
took us off topic.
It doesn't. There are no topics. We're just we're talking about sex. Here we go. So there is this other thing that I've come up across that Amy just hit on, is like the random, and not even just the random, but like hiring a sex worker for your first threesome, because then there's no emotional attack.
They know what they're doing too.
And they're pros. Yeah. And you're getting what you pay for. So there is that aspect of perhaps, whether it's another man, another woman, that you get someone who knows what's up and that is paid to be there, versus like your neighbor or Hank Moody, who's anti-squirter or whatever, right? We don't
squirting Hank Moody.
I think he liked it.
I think I remember the episode. I was like, wow, he's like anti-squirting. Like, stop calling.
We need to watch this together. There's so much good stuff in there.
I think, I can't. I have had a number of threesomes, and it's newer to have multiple dicks in threesomes for me. It used to be like me and a lady friend hooking up with another guy friend,
right.
And no penetration would happen. It'd just be a bunch of oral stuff, and it was fun. And also, I'm like pretty straight, so it was more like a research project. So like for me, my perfect threesome does have 2 dicks, because I like dick a lot. And so with what we found, we've only tried, my partner and I, who are non-monogamous, is we're playing with the idea of threesomes within foursomes.
Okay.
So he and I are partners, and then we both have lovers. So mine is another dude and his is another woman. And we've only done this once, right? But like this, it worked out quite well, where within you have this foursome, and then we do rounds. So it's like 15-minute rounds
it's
of
like a fire drill. You're like, all right, break.
Yeah, it's like, so one person steps out every 15 minutes so that you get these different variations of threesomes. But what we discovered is the person who goes at the end gets fucked, not in a good way, because everyone's tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And guess who that was? My partner. I know, you got screwed. Not screwed though. Not screwed enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, brilliant move to try it though. Like ding, switch, or whatever like that. I think that's a great idea, and it does seem. I don't know. It does seem almost, even though it doesn't sound like it, it does almost seem more natural and safer that way, because there are more people there that. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna come back to this, I know, but this is something I do on the show. And even though you guys are podcasting legends, you've written a book. Let's just pretend that somebody, I don't know, 8 years ago was trying to have a threesome, and they mixed Viagra with something else. They went into a coma, and they just woke up and saw this. Like, who is this fucking idiot? Who are these women, right? They don't know you at all. Can you talk about who you guys are and what you guys do?
I like the way you set that
coma.
up. Yeah.
That threw me off. I was like, whoa, where are we going
okay, so we're talking about, got to help the Viagra
coma.
guy.
Okay, the Viagra guy.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I was thinking of? Remember during the pandemic, who was it? 30 Seconds to Mars, Jared Leto.
Jared Leto.
He was in a silent meditation retreat during it came out, and then the whole world was shut down. So like that guy.
Freaky.
Right?
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. I did actually know a guy who used to snort Viagra at parties instead of along with the cocaine. He's like, no, this will keep you. So when
that's so gnarly on your heart.
Oh my God. Yeah. The guy was a psychopath. He's like, when the coke takes your dick down, the Viagra takes it back up, and he would just snort it. And I'm like, yo, bro, off a knife and shit.
Alive?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I got out of that I got out of that situation. But
hopefully he didn't have blue boogers or something, because aren't those blue?
Yeah.
Well, but that's not the problem. Viagra's are hard on your heart, so is cocaine.
Yeah.
And if they're adding alcohol, because when you do cocaine, you usually add alcohol. As the rest of everyone don't do that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, don't.
That was going to be my advice.
Don't.
So
do not do that. That was just a cautionary tale. Anyway, back to you guys.
Who are we? Who are we?
We are, so Amy and I, we started this podcast back in 2017 because we always were the women, we were best friends in the sex toy industry. Amy had been a sex educator since 2008, and I worked at this shop with her that she opened with her mom in Santa Cruz, where we live. And long story short, talking to people about sex was something that both of us ended up doing without without even trying. And I worked on the facet of talking about sex toys with people, which incorporates a lot of bodies, like body parts, bodies, knowing different anatomy on all sorts of different people, what happens with age. And Amy was doing the same thing with Uber Lube, educating people about how lube can be beneficial and medical, that doctors also recommend it, and so on and so forth. So when we started the podcast, we had no idea what it would do, but we were like, even if 100 people listen, that's 100 people that might get some information that they didn't have before. So if this dude that woke up from a coma, because it can get a little bit blended or grayed with the name Shameless Sex. People are like, oh, so you're just talking about anything that you want to do sexually is fine. It's okay. And the answer is that's not what we're saying. We're also not telling you what you should do in the bedroom. We are telling you nothing. We're giving you information and you can do with it what you like. And we are honoring consent, meaning that if you're a yes to something sexually, like I really love getting a golden shower, and someone else that you're partnered with is like, I don't love that and I don't want to do that. That's them not consenting, even though they're your partner and even though you want that, and they say, I'm not really into that. We're not saying, oh, do it anyway, right? So the shameless part of it is because we all have shame. We all do. It's a part of being a human. And sometimes it doesn't even come from the bedroom. It could come from the locker room. It could come from something that you read in Cosmopolitan about how things should be, or a TV show that you watched back in the day that you believed is how sex should look or be. And we're here to tell you there's lots of different scenarios and ways to navigate through relationships and through the shame that you have. We're not pushing for you to be shame-free, but we're allowing people the opportunity to work with the shame they have so they can have the sex life and the actual pleasure that they deserve and that is available to them if they want it. If they're like, I don't really like sex, that's okay too. You can be shameless about that. I don't like sex. There you go. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, well, what is sex to you? Is some people consider sex to be picture it like taking a picture of their genitals and sending it to someone. That could be sex to someone.
I know someone that thought holding hands was sex once upon a time when they were 16 and discovering they were a lesbian, but still, I mean, that was like, I had sex, I did everything, but they held hands. And I think ultimately, yeah, it's what April said. We're giving people, here's the info, and you are your own individual. And so you can pick and choose. Same with our book. Hence why our book is kind of like a choose your own adventure style, but it's called Choose Your Own Pleasure Path, where you are deciding like, here's what fits for me, as opposed to the world telling you here's who you should be, because that's what started the shame in the first place. So basically we're helping the world one orgasm at a time.
And then to this coma guy, hey, if you just popped a Viagra, awesome for you.
Good for
so
you.
What kind of sex do you remember liking 8 years ago before you went into the coma?
It's a long coma.
That's a long. And if you don't remember, then you can start listening to various sexuality podcasts, because podcasts did exist 8 years ago. Podcasts existed like 20 years ago.
Well, this coincides with people aging in sex,
Yeah.
right?
Sure,
Where you're who am I now when I'm 60 versus when I was 30? And a lot of people get stuck on like I want to be what I was when I was 30.
Or that I'm not like that anymore and they're bummed.
So now it's like a discovery of where am I now? Or couples, long-term relationships, same thing. It's like we are different than we were 5 years ago. Let's focus on who am I? Who are we right now? What do we want? What do we not want? And then grow from there.
And then sex toys.
And sex toys.
Yeah. Thank God for sex toys. Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, can you can you remember, and maybe this isn't a thing, but do you remember a moment, like each of you, like where the podcast you feel like it changed you and like oh my God, I'm different, this is wild, I don't know how this happened? Because I've had just in the 3 years I've been doing this show, I've had multiple moments where I feel like it's changed me. So do you remember a way where you're like, oh, I would never be doing this, whether it's sexual or not, who cares, but, I would never be thinking this way if I wasn't someone hosting a weekly podcast for this many years, right?
Yeah, totally. So this is not the podcast, but when we opened up the sex shop that I own with my mom, that April was she was helping running the show when we opened it in 2008. My mom, as an example, my mom was a mostly straight person. had not had experience with women, and because we had the sex shop and very much immersed in the queer community, she started dating women, and she did that for 10 years. And so that's just like an example of how being in an industry like that can open up something that's already inside of you. It was already inside of her. She's not a straight person.
When it was normalized, she felt more comfortable
and had more
exploring
access to it.
Right.
All of a sudden, there's these women hitting on her at pure pleasure, like, "Oh, the sex shop lady," and I think for me, one way I can relate to that. I mean, one is just all the guests we have that teach us so many things, and there's a lot that have been really impactful. Whether it's sexual health, we've had a lot of educators that have taught us a lot about that, and we've like Susan Bratton, but also people that are doctors, and we've taken proactive steps to alter our lives there. But I think for me, I had been to kind of like some sex party vibes before having the podcast, but didn't understand them, didn't feel like I could relate or really fit in. And having the podcast, and I don't identify fully as a almost an entrepreneur, an exhibitionist. I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm part like entrepreneur, part exhibitionist, part voyeur. But I just like being in the energy, and I think our podcast and the many guests we've had, including some guests that have had sexy parties that I've gone to, has opened me up in a way where it's showed me that it's like kind of Burning Man, the radical self-expression.
Yeah.
And that it's like it's inspired me to embody more of that in not just walking down the street, but like in the right environments. Whereas before, I think I was scared to be all of me around other people that were not just my partner.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Wait, did you have? You want me to answer the same question, Dustin? Did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I would love that. I would love if you answered the same question.
Your wish is my command, Dustin. So for what Amy was saying about the education piece, that we are lucky enough to get education every week by the experts, therapists, sometimes celebrities, sometimes porn stars, sometimes people that are sex workers on the show, has been great to get perspective that is very vast. And that to me is cool, but I'm very well traveled. I've lived all over the world, so I always feel like I'm learning or have learned, and you can never stop learning, and you will never know everything. And the world of sex, it was very scary for me for a long time. I had a lot of shame that was instilled in me at a young age. Grew up in the Midwest in Wisconsin and went to college in Minnesota, and really never talked about sex or any of the pieces of the things that I had shame around with my body, whatever else it was. There were lots of different pieces. The patriarchy, thinking I always had to please a man, right? And that masturbation was bad. There was all sorts of things. And it wasn't that I grew up religious or anything. It was more just lack of anyone ever talking to me about sex. So the podcast for me, when it kind of shifted and changed, was honestly, it took about 100. How many episodes was that? Was that STI episode?
120.
120. She memorized that.
Hey, we wrote a book. I know some of the numbers. Okay.
Yeah, I can never remember all the numbers. So it took 120 episodes, and we launched an episode every Tuesday. So that is a lot of time. That's 2+ years, right? Of not saying something that had been blocking me from feeling like I was actually really truly being shameless. I'm like, I'm not being authentic if I don't share this piece about my life with people. And I know I cried, and it was beautiful.
A lot of emails from people that like it was you and April share. It was about an STI status,
right?
And her outing that after
that I contracted when I was like a teenager with like one of my first sexual experiences, and it was something that was super heavy for me. And I always had shame around it. You know, people talk shit all the time about STIs, and they kind of I like that always made me super uncomfortable. And I never was like, oh yeah, bro. And finally in that episode, it was like a release, and it really healed me, and it made me feel finally like I was being authentic and could help people, because this isn't just about Amy and I sharing stories, which that would be, I think, interesting, but not as effective.
Yeah.
But weaving our own personal stories can be difficult because there's judgment. Like Amy shared how she, she had to get an abortion when she got pregnant, having a UTI, and we didn't get like negative
UTI.
feedback.
No.
A UTI. Not a UTI.
UTI
What is
got
it?
me pregnant.
IUD.
IUD.
Oh my God. A UTI got
I
her
didn't know you
pregnant.
get pregnant. UTI like that. Okay.
I'm sorry I mixed that one up.
That's all right.
awesome.
No, that's great.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad you knew what I was talking about. And that also was a shameless admission, and that was for some folks hard to digest. But those are the pieces that it's not all about us, but I think normalizing those things and me realizing that it was helping people was when that aha moment came up.
Can I do a shameless admission live one right now for you? That makes some people
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
do whatever you want. Yeah.
I currently have a cold sore on my lip as we speak, and I'm super insecure about it. I made out with someone when I was 18. I'm almost 40. He said it was a sun blister. It wasn't. Got super sick. Got gnarly virus in the middle of my lip. Haven't had it for at least 7 or 8 years, and it just came out because my immune system was low. And I'm like, and I know it's not genital herpes, right? But it's smack dab in my face.
Yeah.
And I like walk around still feeling like playing with this like shame, it's herpes on my face. And I'm also like, let's just consider number one, how many people have this? It's a lot more than the folks who do not, but we get so insecure about it. So I'm just outing that right now, like, hey everyone, I have herpes on my face as we speak, and I still have insecurities around it. I walked in, I was like, April, what does it look like? She's like, it looks fine.
I was like, it looks good.
But
it looks good.
But
It looks good.
But yeah, it looks great. You're like, she's like, it's not that bad.
Or like HPV, people get shame around having HPV. I'm like, girl, everybody got HPV. I actually don't, thank God. I don't know how that happened, but it might pop up. You never know. It just comes out of the blue.
And these are just examples of like, we don't have to walk around. Like, I don't walk around everywhere just so I can feel better. Being like, hey, I have herpes on my face, everyone. Hey, I've had an abortion in the past. Hey, I've had addiction issues. I'm not like doing that everywhere, but there's some power in that, in your own work. Hence the shame part. And this is not ours, Brene Brown, right? Like, shame thrives in silence and secrecy, and it dies in in sharing, in connecting with other people and outing it, and
having an ally, like a shame
ally.
ally.
And
right.
So when I do that, like just saying that right now, I'm not sure when I get off the call if I'm going to walk around like, I don't care about this herpes on my face, but there's a freedom in it. There's not like the elephant in the room.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like, and thank you for that, honestly, both of you for sharing that and, being yourselves and like going deep. I know you guys do that on your show, but like, thanks for bringing it here. Cause I always appreciate when a guest is fully, and usually everybody is, especially after like the first like fucking 15 minutes of dealing with my goofy ass. Like somehow I'm like, it's okay. Let's fucking, whatever.
That's awesome. That's a skill right there that you have, that to help people feel that safe.
I think I'm just a mess, and people are like, oh, this guy's a mess. It doesn't matter. Let's fucking talk about it. But yeah. So
nourishment barrier. We'll talk about that when you're on our show.
Okay. Yeah. I can't wait to be grilled. I cannot wait to be grilled. And spoiler alert, I'm going to be on their show, which how legendary is that? I'm so looking fucking forward to that. But thank you for saying all that, because it does help to sort of frame Shameless Sex as not just like this horny title like you guys suggested, right? And it is shameless because you guys are sharing things that you feel shame around and encouraging others to do the same. And I fucking love that so much, because I just feel like being a human is so complicated already, but being a human that wants to have sex, and probably more than the average person, or maybe not, whatever, but we wouldn't know because none of us are talking about it. That's even more difficult. So you add shame onto that. It's like, why are we attaching a fucking an old school, spinning wheel safe to the back of the car we're trying to drive when it's already loaded with a bunch of stuff? So it's like, for me, I think it doesn't get any better than that. And I love that you guys, are 450 some episodes deep. And, I listened to a few episodes, and you can tell you guys are feeling that. And you guys you're feeling rewarded, but you're also, if you guys like come across very like grateful to be there kind of thing, which I fucking love so much. Cause I feel that way every day. I feel like I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be like back in some terrible part of my life, and not in the home studio that I built in Chicago and like all of these fucking great things. And I just worked like the AVN red carpet, and it was like a life-changing fucking thing for me. And I was just like, whose life is this? You know? So I really appreciate that, that gratitude and also like the reward at the same time.
Well, thank you for what you're doing, because this isn't easy. This category in podcasting is one of the most difficult categories, because you get hidden in the health and wellness category,
Yeah.
and
You're heavily censored.
you're heavily
yeah.
censored on social media, and so thank you for that work, and to everyone that's listening. And some people, you know, we get haters. Of course we get haters, and that's okay. Amy handles it much better than I do. I like have like weeks of like sadness, and that's just part of it. I'm getting better. But I wanted to bring up one just small piece about
Sure.
what we do, because there are guests that we have that Amy and I don't necessarily agree with, where we're not like, oh yeah, I'm all in on this, or I totally agree with this perspective. You know, we've had people on like a long time ago now that were a person that was talking about how if your pussy doesn't get wet, something's wrong with you, and both of us were like, we disagree with that.
Or
And
if the only way you have orgasms is from your clit, then there's something wrong with you. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And people that think that you have to have a big dick or a hard dick in order to have good pleasure, or the pleasure that you should, or there's a hierarchy of orgasm. And so this is the thing. We don't agree with everyone. At the same time, sometimes people listening will agree with them, and
Sure.
then they have another tool in their tool belt. So I just wanted to point that out, because we don't necessarily pick just what Amy and I want to hear or learn. We do it
or like what one genre or category of our listeners want to learn. Like we're exposing as much information as possible. We won't have everyone on our show. There are certain people that they go against our ethics, and but for the most part, like the more information that we have, including the ones that we don't agree with, the better, because then we can really formulate our opinion and figure out what's right for us.
Yeah. I mean, so well, and on the censorship piece, I will say you're absolutely right. At first it was Instagram, and then I somehow got the blue check for the show, and I started bleeping every single thing, and they've been okay since. But now it's YouTube. Like YouTube literally has snipers on the roof across the street, and they're just waiting. No,
I'm pretty sure they're all at our across from us at the moment. That we're like one strike away.
Maybe our naked landlord's really a YouTube sniper.
Oh yeah, undercover YouTube.
The painter, the big bucks. Yeah,
censor seeker.
And the thing about YouTube, it's like, hey, we're taking your episode down because you broke our rules. I'm like, which rule did I break? They're like, And it's like,
here's just a document that won't actually tell you what happened.
Yeah.
Half the time, it's not even us. We'll have like a link that our guest sends us that gets flagged, and we're like, okay, so we can't give props or direct someone to an 18 plus.
And they hate sex workers.
They hate sex workers. And we had which the name is a bit hard, but we had Killing Kittens, which is like a lifestyle swingers.
The name's shown.
It's more like lifestyle sex parties that are high end from London. And we were like Killing Kittens. So that got flagged, and then they gave it back, because I did know it's like with the 2Ks that it could be maybe people killing kittens, which I would never. I'm like
a death metal band or something.
Yeah, and so it was actually, which means they're doing their work, but it was actually emailed to us that, we put this back on. It didn't violate any community guidelines. I'm like, that's the first that we actually got something put back on.
Yeah, we are Killing Kittens, and we're here to rock. What? How many episodes have you guys had pulled down?
It depends. So, remember how there was like the Google Play transition to YouTube Music, which was only a number of months ago. Yeah. And so we've always done the YouTube game with just our videos of the interviews on YouTube, of our podcast, which is a lot of episodes, over 400, as April has said. And so when we tried to upload it for just the audio part for YouTube Music, we got flagged within hours, left and right, like to the point where we would have lost our YouTube account. And so we just don't play that game. We just took it off. We don't do YouTube Music.
Okay.
They just gave us we were in timeout for one. It was 7 days. Another one was 30
2 weeks, and then there was
And then they did warn us. We've been removed from Instagram several times too for not explicit content at all. We were pretty sure that there was another podcast that was sending that had like shameless in their name, that they were like a Christian podcast that I thought they were trying to take us out. I don't have proof, but we thankfully have friends that helped us. Otherwise we've had TikTok taken down too. And we can't get the blue check for some reason, what like our personal accounts are, but the Shameless Sex, they just really...
And we're permanently shadow banned.
We're permanently shadow banned
on Instagram. We can't change it. There's nothing we can do.
So we don't have, like,
Stick
we
with
barely ever grow. We get like a couple followers because you can't find us.
Yeah, no, that's how I am. And I'll make sure that I go with all my accounts and follow you guys after. Yeah, and we'll just like the shit out of everything, push that fucking engagement. But
share.
The trick for me was sex party with Dustin Rybka, and I changed it from my logo to me from a photo shoot, and they're like, picture of you, your name. So maybe you just added with I don't know, and then I sent them my ID, and then they did it. So
yeah, we've tried a lot of different angles. It's a little odd, but like at the end of the day, it's like the check is smart because we have had people that were, and we own the name Shameless Sex. Everyone, don't try to take it.
Sure.
We might get mad at you. Yeah, we trademarked it.
Well, we have sent them.
We might get mad at you.
Magazines.
Yeah, we might get mad.
We
We'd be like, this is a conflict of interest.
We're coming for you.
We're lovingly mad. When we're mad, we're like semi-loving. So that's cool because we learned about a lot of communications and stuff.
So no snipers. Yeah, okay.
No, we don't have snipers.
Okay, so Amy, you talked a little bit about going to, I think you said sex party-ish stuff, stuff, which I love.
I've gone to sex parties and ishes.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, there's a lot of ishes out there, and then like one of the probably the number 2 question I get from, ironically, you would think it'd be more from men, but it's actually from more women in the DMs is like, I want to go. I don't know if I want to do anything, right? And I don't know, like, what's the difference between like a play party, a cuddle party, a sex party, and are people going to be fucking in my face? And I'm like, listen, you can go to these things and just like have some, have some sushi and chill, or what, depending on the party. I don't know if sushi's in the budget, but you can go and hang out. So maybe if you could talk a bit about like, getting over that shame, fear, and like they don't even know where to go to search things like that. And so,
well, now all the P. Diddy stuff comes up, and people are like,
I
oh
know,
my god,
yeah.
Don't look at those
I never
parties.
want to go if there's fucking
Trust
baby oil
me,
run.
Yeah. The name of my show is Sex Party, and just a little fun fact. You guys can save it for your episode, but I did 2 episodes with a secret source on Diddy, and they leaked us some things, and we talked about them, and YouTube was very upset, but also P. Diddy's lawyers sent me a cease and desist, and I ignored it, and I still aired the episode. So I've got multiple strange phone calls that are recorded, and take it down
you should
now.
Just change
or else.
the name now of your podcast to Freak Off, and see how they feel about that.
Then the lawyers will definitely go. People are listening to that though.
Yeah. For sure.
So when I speak to like the sex party ish, it would be like going to like sex educator things like Sex Geek Summer Camp, where they have a playroom, and so it's not like a fully organized sex party, but people are like going in there and trying different toys together or whatever. And so that was more like the ish. And then I've been to actual like official sex parties with the Bonobo Network, and they've been on our show. They're like a Bay Area in California. They throw really amazing sex parties. And then I have also started to kind of throw my own parties with my partner and a couple other people. When a couple other people are the organizers, and we call it Not a Sex Party, Sex Party. And April's actually coming to her first one with us for my 40th birthday.
It's her 40th birthday. Otherwise, I would be scared.
But the question that you're asking, so because a lot of our friends who have never been, they're like, okay, what do I wear? What do I do? What's going to happen? And so the Not a Sex Party is. And I will model it after other sex party groups. Like there's spaces and rooms that there's no sex is allowed. It's so you can just hang out. You can, maybe have dance music, have cocktails, whatever. So there's places where if you don't want to be around sexy things, you don't have to. And sexy things will not be mandatory. There might be some people having sex on a massage table. There might not. You might not see genitals. You might see a bunch of genitals.
Yeah.
You might see people just in a cuddle puddle, naked or clothes, just kind of like rubbing and kissing. But there's no pressure to do any of those things. And And so but it's hard to convey that to people. So like to the people listening, when you say it, they're still like, yeah, but still, but so what I would suggest to people, one, like if you live in major cities, or larger, like, there are sex party groups in, LA, in the Bay Area, in Chicago, in New York, right? They're probably not in what's like a city in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yes, there's definitely some in
But
Minneapolis.
no, not a small one. I'm thinking of a small
Mankato.
one. Yeah, Mankato. Probably not in Mankato, okay? But you do go to Minneapolis. And I would look up like positive sex party groups in whatever the urban city
My
is.
ex-boyfriend lives in Mankato, so hit me up if
What's
that's
up?
not true, okay?
Yeah. Let us know about the sex party thing. And just go to one, like research it, make sure that whatever their values are aligns with yours.
Mm-hmm.
Go there with baby steps, not like I'm gonna go all in. Go there to like, I'm just gonna go there. My goal is to like just talk to two different people and just be in the energy.
We also had one of the founders of The Play, which is a sex party. It's more like art mixed with, so there's a lot of performance artists. They make everyone that is there go through STI check. So you have to do that beforehand. And it is not about having to have sex. There's entertainment at the same time. They'll have like an aerial artist, or they'll have performative pieces, like someone playing the violin, and it's curated. So they base it on your profile and your likes and your desires and your needs of what you're trying to look for in a sex party. So, and then they'll curate their parties for people with similar styles. And even if you're a newbie, and a lot of them are in LA. I think they're expanding. There's like to different areas. You could always, if you have the funds for it, fly in, go to the party. They last all night, so you don't have to find a hotel that night. They last until the morning, and
you don't have to stay all night either.
Yes, there's food. There's all sorts of. I think they have cocktails, but that's what. And they're in fabulous locations. And I think if you want to go in that direction where you prefer more, there's also the skirt club, which is only for bi women, so it's only for vulva owners, bi-curious and queer, but you have to own a vulva to go. So that's the skirt club, and that's also high-end parties. And then the Killing Kittens thing that I was talking about with 2Ks, they're doing like a cruise around the Mediterranean. There's sex educators that are, it's not swingers, it's more these elevated sex parties where they really are, it's about normalizing and appreciating sex. So it's not some dungeony, if you're into that, great, but it's not dungeony scary where you think you have to do something. And then Bonobo, of course, but that's more local to the Bay Area. And I just lastly with the sex party thing for me is like, I've been to sex parties where I didn't have sex. Even after I'd been to a couple sex parties before, like what was my energy when I show up, like my energy is always different. Like, if I'm horny and want to have sex, then maybe I will try to, with consent and boundaries, seek that out. Sometimes I just want to be like run around naked and dance, but I can't do that at the club here in Santa Cruz. And people ask permission if they want to touch you, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I've had that happen where they didn't, and
they got kicked out.
Yeah, not instantly, but yes, there was a whole thing of like Bonobo has a whole accountability thing. Like if there's a violation, they have a whole process that is very much like, not like you're instantly out. It's like they allow for someone to kind of like plead their, like, here's the work I'm doing. I would take accountability for this, but that person did not do that. So yes, they did get kicked
And the
out.
Play does the same thing. Safety is numero uno. They have security and whatnot, and consent. They have consent conversations beforehand as well. So
yeah. But baby steps, and like another just last thing for sex parties, don't try to be like everyone else. Just be with who you are and what you're feeling in that moment. And because if you push yourself beyond that, that's when bad shit can happen too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people think like, because I've had people on the show who've been to like, I don't know, trapeze or something or whatever. And God, podcast fucking throat or something.
Oh,
but
yeah, you heard me last week.
Where they go and then behind when they want to, there's like 2 areas or 3 areas. And when they go to the third area, like you have to hit the locker room and completely change no matter what. I'm like, not all parties are like that. You can go, there's some parties that people stay fully clothed and then you go find a spot if you want, but you don't have to. And so I always push that, like, just go and eat some grapes thing, like, or just go and have some fucking charcuterie or whatever the fuck. And I've been pushing that since the beginning because I think just going would be transformative enough. Just going and checking that out, and that might give you that like spark, that confidence to just be like, damn, okay, look at me. And then you can take it from there. Maybe you don't do anything else again. Maybe you hit all the fucking parties and whatever. But yeah, no, that's fucking amazing advice. So, okay, you guys have been podcasting since 2017, correct?
Yep.
Wow. Congratulations. That's amazing. And then you decide in 2023, I believe, to write a book. So tell me about the book, because everyone's got that book thought. I have that book thought. Don't worry, guys. I won't do it anytime soon, but it's probably coming down the line. And a lot of people want to write a book about their whatever, but you guys actually did it. Tell me what inspired it. Were you just fucking terrified to pull the trigger? How long did it take?
Well, first off, it took 2 years to write, and we both, it was a dream for both of us independently and then together to write a book. And we actually didn't seek out anything. We didn't start writing the book at all. We had an idea, like we were like, that would be really cool if there was this kind of book out there. Mm-hmm. And then we were approached by a literary agent who had heard the podcast and was a fan. And he asked us, have you ever thought about writing a book? And we're like, well, actually, yes. So we put together a manuscript quickly. He sent it off for auction.
The manuscript wasn't the full book, by the way. It was just the first 2 chapter examples.
They just want examples and to know that you're going to market it. And then it went, then your manuscript goes to a bidding. You kind of want it. So major publishers and independent publishers will bid. And then Ben Bella, actually, they're a fairly large publisher, but they only choose like nonfiction books and like cookbooks and things like that. So they picked up our manuscript and ran with it. And then it took us from start to finish about 2 years. So it was actually released. It's Audible, it's ebook, and we read the Audible version.
Nice.
Amy and I switch off every other chapter.
It was released in 2023.
It was released in November 2023.
We started in 2021. That's
yes,
okay.
Exactly. So that's how it came about. It was we poured our heart and soul. It was our baby. Like Amy and I had a child. It's turquoise and yellow, and it
looks just like us.
It looks just like us, and it is something that we are really proud of. And writing a book, there's a lot of things. I wish we could write a book on writing a book, because there are so many things that authors don't know if you're a first-time author, that not necessarily bad things, but things that are left out and no one really talks. There's no manual for it, really. At least we had some guidance from friends that had written books before, but not a lot. And
how to write a sex book for dummies. How about that? A book on sex for dummies.
Because there is just a lot of steps, what publishers do, how to go out there, the timing, what even hardcover versus soft cover, all of those things, because ours is only in hardcover right now at my insistence. I was like, we're doing this hardcover only. People respect hardcovers more. And it's been great. It's just, it'll be for the rest of our lives. Right. Yeah. So that's something that we're proud of, but that's how the book came about. And the name, look, it's Shameless Sex because we trademarked that, and the subtitle is pretty fucking long. We forget it all the time.
Choose your own pleasure path to unlock the sex life you've been waiting for. We would never make it that long in the future. No. By the way, it should be half of that.
But,
that's why. But
we were given like 70 different tasks to do, plus while writing a book. So we were just like, oh. So yeah, so we are proud though of the content. The book is amazing and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and so with you said that you were thinking of writing a book. Like we had this concept for this in 2018, but we had only been podcasting for a year. We've been sex educators since 2008, so we had a lot of education under our belts. But we were like, we have this concept, the choose your own adventure or choose your own pleasure path, that was not there. Right, most sex books just tell you what you should do. And ours is more interactive, almost like you get to be your own coach or therapist with a lot of support of all the doctors, coaches, and therapists that have been on our show. And so, but we just weren't ready. That it was like, we need more time. And like April said, that it just kind of like happened. And so it was right with our trajectory. Like, people ask us like, what's next for Shameless Sex, right? Because we wrote a book. So we're like, should we make a workbook that's complementary to go with the book? We were talking about some TV stuff. We started doing retreats a little over a year and a half ago, where we do retreats. We've done them in Mexico. We've done them in Costa Rica. We're doing another one in the U.S.
It's like Palm Springs area near Coachella Valley. Yeah. So, and that is, depending on when this episode comes out, it's for anyone,
couples, individuals,
right?
So, penises, pussies.
Yes, and It's not a sex party or orgy.
It's not a sex party, not a sex party. It's just a retreat.
It's a sexual wellness retreat.
You learn,
yes.
you enjoy,
you have fun.
You have fun, yes.
And it's all-inclusive food, alcoholic beverages. We have so much fun. There's a pool. It's fabulous. People can go to shamelesssex.com and check it out. There's still room, but we've already sold a bunch of spots, and it's pretty intimate and small. And it's in the desert, so it's going to be fantastic.
And I'll just say, aside from TV,
when is it? It's in May.
It's in May 8th to 11th, 2025. And aside from TV, the next thing, when people ask us what's next for Shameless Sex, April's going to run for president. Just kidding, but I like it. I think she should.
I think I will. Maybe in the next 40 years.
Governor.
Yeah, well, I mean,
The governor.
it's not like podcasts take up any of anyone's time. So it's so easy to do podcasts, and you can just run for president and write books. It's just, it's also fucking easy.
You don't sleep. You have unlimited time all the time.
Yeah.
I had a full-time job. So did Amy. Had another almost full-time job with Uberlube too while we wrote the book and had a podcast. We literally, I understood Thoreau why he drank so much, and Hemingway.
God, Fitzgerald too.
Fitzgerald. I was like, oh, this is straight up why people are alcoholics. Hank Moody, even though he's a character.
Fucking Hank Moody, anti-squirter.
Fucking anti-squirter. Yeah, I hope he's not. I hope that's just a fucking lie. But yeah. Well, I think you guys are amazing. I know we're up against the deadline, and normally at this juncture. Are we at a juncture? We're at a juncture, I guess. I would ask you guys to give some advice on something for the audience or whatever, but I feel like they've got enough advice from this episode. So selfishly, as someone who is about to have 3 years under their belt doing a sex podcast and is absolutely in love with what he's doing, I'm going to ask the pros, the women who have been doing it, who I've looked up to and who I've seen, all around the Apple podcast forever. I'm going to ask you guys as people who have done podcasting in the sex field for, 8 years, right? What advice do you have for me? Tell me all the, tell me whatever you want. Tell me all the things. Give me all the help.
Well, young whippersnapper. I'm just kidding. So I assume you started your podcast out of a passion, right? If you really enjoy this part of your podcast, and for us, that's how ours started, and things got more complicated when we grew, because then it was we could monetize it, and we have ads, and we're very picky about our ads and things like that too. But one thing that we've done that I think works really well is we stand by our ethics, and we don't really bend from them. We could have so many different advertisers and make a lot more money than we make if we were just well, whatever, it's just money. But we are really particular about products, not just sex products, all products. We have to try them. And this is the same thing when in the sex toy industry, us working in the sex toy industry, we don't just represent something that we don't believe in. So my top advice would be to really stick to your morals and your ethics and your values, as to what really speaks to you, because when you bend from that, and same thing as with sex workers, right, when they cross their boundaries, they feel lost, they feel violated. So I think that and I think our listeners can hear that in what we share. Not all of them, but I think a lot of them can hear when they're talking about something they believe in this, or they're at least curious about it. So that'd be my advice.
That's beautiful, Amy. I
Thank
agree
you,
with that. And for you, Dustin, I would say if it becomes something that starts to feel like work and you're not having fun anymore, then that's a time maybe to take a pause. And if it feels good, it is work, because you care about what you do, and obviously the quality of your content that you're putting out, but stay consistent. And if it stops being fun, then just take a look at that and maybe pause, because that's something that Amy and I, right, 'cause we've had fun the whole time. And there have been moments that it started getting stressful, and I was like, okay, hold up. We're losing the whole key of this. We're sisters, we're best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And if that got in the way, you don't have a co-host, but if that started getting in the way, I'm like, I don't want to do this because we feel like we have to. We want to do this because we want to, and because we're having fun. Now, I know you can't always have fun, but I try to always have fun.
Yeah, well, we
And
do
Amy
our best
does
to do
too.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, so that
Absolutely.
would be my advice.
A little too much fun sometimes for me.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
But we got to mix it up. We're only here one time, right? April Lampert, Amy Baldwin, otherwise known as Shameless Sex. Thank you so much for being with me on Sex Party. You guys are amazing. And I just want to remind these party-going people, I want to tell these party-going people where they can find your amazing, innovative podcast, where they can find all the stuff on the retreat, where they can buy the book, spend some money. Take it away, ladies.
Okay, shamelesssex.com has most everything resource-wise. So if you want to listen, we're on any podcast app. A lot of times you have to actually type shameless, then sex, because if you type shameless, there's a bunch of other things that come up. We have 20 million plus, downloads and millions and 5 million plus listeners that keep growing, and we have a ton of different content to choose from. So we also have a premium subscription that you can go all access with Shameless Sex. It's ad-free content, and we drop that whenever the fuck we want to. And I really am excited to have you on our show, Dustin.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Our social handles is just Shameless Sex Podcast. All
but
of our
if
socials.
you can't find us on Instagram, here's what you do. Go to Amy Baldwin. I'm Amy Shameless Sex. Go to April Lampert on Shameless Sex, or anyone that you know that's following Shameless Sex. Go to their profile and look at something through Shameless Sex through there. Then you can actually find us.
Same with on Facebook. It's hard to find. It's even if you
shadow
type it.
banning is a bitch.
Yeah. And I'm going to follow you guys from both the Dustin Rybka account and the Sex Party account here in a moment, so they can just go to mine and find it. So there's that.
Yeah. And you can buy the book and all the things, all the Amazons, purepleasureshop.com. I still co-own that with my mom. It's an online website with sex toys and things. Our book is there. Our favorite sex toys are there.
Bookshop.org, all of the books.
All of them.
Anywhere. Just look it up. Shameless Sex.
And if it's not at the place you want to buy it, give them hell and be like, I want this book.
Where the fuck is this book?
Where the fuck is the sex book?
Yeah.
Or get the Audible.
Cause a scene in Barnes and Noble or whatever.
Please do that. Yeah. Have a tantrum. Shameless Sex.
Well, you guys are amazing. It's been an honor. I could talk to you guys for another fucking 4 hours. So we'll have to figure out how you come back and whatever, but I'd love to have you back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We can't wait to see you in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
On our show in a week or two. So super excited.
I look forward to it. I can't wait. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Huge thank you to April and Amy for being with me on the show this week. I will be on their podcast, Shameless Sex, coming up, so look out for that. You'll probably get a ton of notifications and reminders if you're following me on Instagram or anywhere else. But if you're loving guests like April and Amy, you want to see them again, they'll be back in the future sometime. But you're really just loving Sex Party. How can you show that love, that desire, that appreciation, that want for more, right? Well, if you're listening to this on platforms like Apple and Spotify, you could leave a rating, you could leave a review. Those things are great, sure. But listen, fuck it. I appreciate it if you do that. But what I really want you to do is make sure you're subscribed to the show so you never miss a new episode every single Wednesday. If you're watching on YouTube, I love you. I see you. I appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube, would you ever go to a sex party in any capacity? Just drop a simple yes or no in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to make sure that you never miss an episode and you show some love, what can you do? You could like this video. You could like all of the videos. You could leave a comment. I'll engage with you, whether positive or negative. But the most important thing you want to do is subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new episode every single Wednesday. I'm always available in the DMs on Instagram, and I will see you all right back here next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter @SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin @DustinRybka.